The holographic display showed a massive creature with razor-sharp teeth tearing into its prey. Several students in the back row made uncomfortable clicking sounds while others shifted nervously in their specially designed seats. Professor Kryn adjusted the image brightness with one of her forearms while keeping her compound eyes focused on the diverse classroom before her. "This is the shadow beast of Kepler 7, she explained in her calm, measured voice. "Notice how it hunts alone and shows no mercy to its victims. Like most apex predators across the galaxy, it exists to kill and consume. No rational being would ever willingly approach such a creature." David Chen sat quietly in the third row, trying not to draw attention to himself. Being the only human in an interspecies xenobiology class meant he often became the subject of curious stares and whispered conversations. Today felt different, though. Today, his classmates seemed more interested in the predator presentation than in studying him. Professor Kryn clicked to the next slide, showing a pack of wolf-like creatures from Tau Ceti. These night hunters travel in groups, making them even more dangerous. Their pack mentality allows them to take down prey much larger than themselves. Again, we see the pattern that holds true across all known civilizations. Predators are to be feared and avoided at all costs. A thin, blue-scaled hand shot up from the front row. "Professor, what about the humans?" The classroom fell silent. David felt his stomach drop as every alien eye turned toward him. Professor Kryn's antennae twitched with what David had learned was curiosity mixed with confusion. "Could you be more specific, Pip?" Professor Kryn asked the young Avalon student. Pip's tentacles waved excitedly as she spoke. "Well, I was reading about human civilization for my cultural studies project, and I found something very strange. Humans keep predators in their homes. They feed them and play with them and even sleep next to them. Why are humans the only species that does this?" The classroom erupted in shocked murmurs. David heard someone whisper "impossible" in Centaurian, while another student made what sounded like a distress call in their native language. Professor Kryn held up one hand for silence, her expression thoughtful. "That is indeed a documented phenomenon," she admitted slowly. "David, perhaps you could explain this behavior to your classmates?" David stood up reluctantly, feeling heat rise in his cheeks. "Well, we called them pets. Dogs and cats mostly. They live with us and we take care of them." A large, rock-like student named Boulder raised what might have been his hand. "But they are predators, yes? They have teeth for killing?" "Yes, but they don't hurt us," David said, trying to find the right words. "Dogs especially are really friendly. They protect human families and play with our children." This caused an even bigger stir. Several students began speaking at once in various alien languages, their voices rising with what sounded like panic. Professor Kryn had to tap her teaching rod against the podium several times to restore order. "You allow killers near your young?" asked Zara, a herbivorous grasswalker whose large eyes were wide with horror. "This makes no sense from any evolutionary perspective." David pulled out his personal device and projected a photo of his family dog, Max, a golden retriever. The image showed Max lying on a couch with David's 5-year-old sister Lucy, curled up against his side, both of them napping peacefully. The reaction was immediate. Several students actually jumped back from their seats. One made what David was pretty sure was a prayer in his native tongue. Even Professor Kryn's usually calm demeanor showed cracks of surprise. "Your family allows a predator to be that close to a helpless child?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. "And the creature does not attack?" "Max would never hurt Lucy," David said firmly. "He loves her. He follows her around the house and won't let strangers get too close to her. When she's scared during thunderstorms, she goes to him for comfort. But this creature, this Max, he has the capability to kill her?" Pressed Professor Kryn. David nodded reluctantly. "I mean, physically, yes, but he would never do that. Dogs have been living with humans for thousands of years. They're part of our families." Pip raised her hand again, her bioluminescent patches flickering with excitement. "Professor, how common is this behavior among humans?" Professor Kryn consulted her data pad. According to the latest cultural survey, approximately 68% of human households contain at least one predator companion. Some households have multiple predators of different species. The number caused another wave of shocked responses. A crystalline student named Quartz actually made a sound like breaking glass, which David had learned meant extreme distress in their species. "This is impossible," declared Rex, a reptilian student from the asteroid colonies. "No prey species would voluntarily live with predators. It goes against every survival instinct." "But humans aren't really prey," David said, immediately regretting the words as soon as they left his mouth. What do you mean? Professor Kryn asked, leaning forward with intense interest. David fumbled for an explanation. I mean, we don't have big teeth or claws or anything, but humans are pretty good hunters too. We're omnivores. We eat meat and plants. This revelation seemed to disturb his classmates even more. Several began whispering frantically among themselves. Professor Kryn raised her hand for silence once more. This raises far more questions than it answers, she said thoughtfully. In all my years of teaching xenobiology, I have never encountered a species that voluntarily cohabitates with natural predators. Every other civilization either eliminates predators from their environment or maintains strict separation. Could we study this phenomenon? Pip asked eagerly. Maybe do a research project on it? Professor Kryn considered this for a long moment. That is actually an excellent idea. Human-predator relationships represent one of the most significant unexplained behaviors in galactic sociology. Class, I am assigning you all to research this topic. Work in teams and prepare presentations on why humans exhibit this unique trait. David sank back into his seat as his classmates began forming groups and excitedly discussing research strategies. He had a feeling this project was going to make his life a lot more complicated. Being the only human in class was hard enough without becoming a living research subject. As the bell chimed to end class, Pip approached David's desk with several other students trailing behind her. David, would you be willing to help us understand this better? She asked politely. We promise to be respectful, but this is truly fascinating from a xenobiological perspective. David looked at their eager, alien faces and sighed. Sure, I guess. But you have to promise not to freak out when I show you more pictures of people with their pets. The group exchanged glances and nodded solemnly, clearly taking this as a serious commitment. As David packed up his things, he wondered what his family would think when they learned that the entire galaxy considered them completely insane for living with Max. 3 days into their research project, the library's quiet study area had become something like a war room. Alien students clustered around floating data screens, their various appendages frantically taking notes while they watched videos from Earth that David had helped them access. Pip covered her light-sensitive eyes with her tentacles as another video played, showing a human child being enthusiastically licked by what her research had identified as a German shepherd. The predator was nearly as large as the small human, yet the child was giggling with delight rather than screaming in terror. I still cannot process this information correctly, admitted Quartz, whose crystalline body was flickering between colors that David had learned indicated deep confusion. Every computational model I run shows this interaction should end in injury or death. Rex, the reptilian student, hissed softly as he scrolled through data on his personal screen. I have been researching the bite force of these dogs that humans keep. Some varieties can exert over 400 pounds of pressure per square inch. That is enough to crush bone. Yet human children regularly put their hands in these creatures' mouths during play, added Zara, who had been taking notes on human-pet interactions with increasing bewilderment. Look at this video. The small human is trying to examine the predator's teeth and the creature simply allows it. David sat in the center of their research circle, feeling like a specimen under examination. For the past few days, his classmates had bombarded him with questions that made him realize how little he had actually thought about why humans kept pets. David, Pip said gently, could you explain once more why your species feeds these predators? What do humans gain from this arrangement? David shrugged. Companionship, I guess. Dogs are loyal and affectionate. Cats are more independent, but they're still good company. People like having animals around. Boulder, whose stone-like features rarely showed expression, somehow managed to look skeptical, but you could achieve companionship with non-threatening species. Why specifically choose predators? I don't know, David admitted. It's just always been that way. Dogs helped humans hunt thousands of years ago, and cats caught mice and rats. But now we keep them just because we like them. Humans fed predators to make them help with hunting other animals? Rex asked, his scales shifting to a deep purple that indicated intense interest. This suggests a level of strategic thinking I had not anticipated. Quartz suddenly brightened to a brilliant white, which David had learned meant excitement. I may have found something significant. Professor Kryn's research access has allowed me to examine archaeological records from Earth. These human-predator relationships are ancient, Cave paintings show humans and wolf-like creatures together over 15,000 years ago. The group crowded around Quartz's screen as images appeared showing primitive artwork of humans and early dogs hunting side by side, sharing food, and even sleeping near the same fires. This predates most known civilizations, Pip whispered, her bioluminescent patches pulsing rapidly. Humans were forming alliances with predators before they even developed advanced technology. But why? Zara asked, her large herbivorous eyes wide with confusion. What evolutionary pressure could have created this behavior? David pulled up another video on his device, this one showing a search and rescue dog finding a lost hiker. Look at this. The dog's whole job is to help save human lives. These aren't just pets, they're partners. The aliens watched in fascination as the video showed the dog alerting its human handler to the location of the missing person, then helping to guide rescuers to the site. The predator is actively protecting a prey species, Rex observed, his voice filled with wonder. This contradicts everything we know about natural behavior. It gets stranger, David said, switching to another video. This is a therapy dog visiting a hospital. Watch how it behaves around sick humans. The video showed a gentle golden retriever moving carefully through a children's ward, allowing sick kids to pet and hug it while remaining perfectly calm and controlled. Boulder made a grinding sound that indicated deep thought. The predator is deliberately restraining its natural instincts to accommodate vulnerable members of another species. How is this possible? Maybe predators on Earth are different somehow, suggested Pip. David shook his head. No, dogs and cats still have all their predator instincts. Dogs still hunt small animals if they're not trained otherwise. Cats definitely still hunt. They kill billions of birds and mice every year. But they can somehow turn those instincts off around humans. This revelation caused another stir among the research group. Quartz's patterns shifted rapidly as he processed this information. So these creatures maintain their predatory capabilities, but choose not to use them against humans, he summarized. This implies a level of cognitive control that should not exist in non-sapient species. Unless they're not really non-sapient, Zara said quietly. The group fell silent as the implications of this statement sank in. David felt compelled to defend his planet's animals. They're definitely not as smart as humans, he said. But they're not stupid either. Dogs can learn hundreds of words and solve problems. Cats are really good at figuring out how to get what they want. They understand human emotions pretty well, too. Human emotions? Rex asked, his scales shifting to an orange shade that indicated surprise. David nodded. Dogs especially are really good at reading human moods. If someone is sad, a dog will often try to comfort them. They seem to understand when humans are happy or upset or angry. Pip's tentacles began waving excitedly again. David, do you have videos of this emotional interaction? David accessed his family's shared photo collection and projected several images and videos. One showed Max gently resting his head on David's grandmother during her last illness. Another showed the dog bringing his favorite toy to David's sister when she was crying after falling off her bicycle. The predator is providing emotional support, Quartz observed, his patterns now cycling through colors David had never seen before. It is actively trying to improve the psychological state of humans. But what does the predator gain? Boulder asked. All I see is humans feeding and housing these creatures without receiving any clear benefit in return. The benefit is the relationship itself, David tried to explain. Humans and their pets form emotional bonds. The animals seem to enjoy human company as much as humans enjoy theirs. Rex made a thoughtful hissing sound. So this is mutual emotional dependence between species? The predators have also evolved to need human companionship? I guess so, David said. Dogs that don't get enough attention from their humans can become depressed or anxious. Cats too, though they hide it better. The research group exchanged glances that seemed to carry significance David couldn't interpret. Finally, Pip spoke up. David, we need to see this for ourselves. Could we arrange to observe these human-predator relationships directly? David considered this request carefully. The idea of bringing a group of alien students to Earth seemed both exciting and terrifying. I could ask my family if you could visit, he offered. But you'd have to promise not to panic when you meet Max. He gets really excited. When new people come to the house. The expressions of barely controlled terror that crossed his classmates' faces told David that this field trip was going to be an adventure none of them would ever forget. The transport shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, while its passenger compartment buzzed with nervous energy. Professor Kryn had spent the entire journey reviewing safety protocols with her students, most of whom were wearing specially designed protective suits that looked more appropriate for exploring a toxic planet than visiting a park in Seattle. Pip pressed her face against the viewing port, watching the blue and green world grow larger beneath them. "I still cannot believe we received approval for this field study," she said, her voice muffled by the breathing apparatus designed for her aquatic respiratory system. "The Galactic Education Council was as curious about this phenomenon as we are," Professor Kryn replied, checking her datapad for the 100th time. "However, I want to remind everyone that we are observing an apex predator planet. Do not remove your protective gear under any circumstances." Rex shifted uncomfortably in his environmental suit, designed to regulate his body temperature in Earth's climate. "Professor, what is our emergency evacuation procedure if the predators attack?" "According to our human liaison, David's family pet has been sedated for our safety," Professor Kryn assured him. "We will observe from a safe distance of at least 10 meters. David, who was not wearing any protective gear, tried to hide his amusement. He had tried to explain that Max was friendly, but his classmates seemed convinced they were visiting some kind of death world filled with barely controlled monsters. The shuttle set down at a private landing pad on the outskirts of the city. David's parents were waiting with what looked like half the Seattle scientific community, all eager to meet actual alien visitors. The cultural exchange aspect of the visit had generated enormous excitement on Earth. "Remember," Professor Kryn instructed as they prepared to disembark, "maintain formation and stay close to the shuttle. If we encounter any uncontained predators, retreat immediately." The group exited the shuttle in a tight cluster, their various environmental suits making them look like a multicolored parade of space exploration equipment. David's mother, Sarah, stepped forward with a warm smile. "Welcome to Earth," she said, speaking slowly and clearly as she had been instructed. "We're honored to have you visit our home." Professor Kryn approached cautiously, her compound eyes scanning the area for threats. "Thank you for hosting this educational opportunity. Where is the predator specimen we are here to observe?" Sarah's expression shifted to confusion. "Specimen? Oh, you mean Max. He's inside with David's father and sister. We thought you'd like to settle in first before meeting him." The mention of the predator being inside a human dwelling with family members caused several students to take involuntary steps backward. Quartz's crystalline structure actually dimmed with what David recognized as fear. "The creature is currently unsecured?" Professor Kryn asked, her voice carefully controlled. "Well, he's not tied up, if that's what you mean," Sarah replied, looking to David for help understanding the question. "He's probably napping on the couch." This revelation caused Boulder to make his stone-grinding sound of distress. "The predator has claimed territory inside your shelter?" David stepped in to translate between the two very different perspectives. "Mom, they're not used to the idea of pets. They think Max is dangerous. Professor, my family treats Max like he's part of the family. He lives in our house because that's normal for humans." Sarah's eyes widened with understanding. "Oh, you think Max might hurt someone?" "I promise you, he's completely harmless. He's actually probably hiding right now because he gets nervous around strangers." "Hiding?" Pip asked, her tentacles twitching with interest. "The predator exhibits fear responses?" "Max is actually pretty shy," David explained. "He doesn't like loud noises or unfamiliar situations. When strangers come over, he usually goes to his favorite corner and waits to see if they're friendly." This information seemed to confuse the visiting students even more. Rex tilted his head in the distinctive reptilian gesture of bewilderment. "The predator assesses social situations before acting? This suggests complex decision-making capabilities." Sarah led the group toward the house, chattering enthusiastically about her family's excitement over the visit. The alien students followed at what they clearly considered a safe distance, their protective suits making soft whirring sounds as they walked. "Before we go inside," Professor Kryn said firmly, "could we observe other human-predator interactions in a controlled environment? I understand there is a public space where many predators gather." "You want to go to the dog park," David translated. "Sure, that's actually a great idea." 20 minutes later, the group stood at the edge of Magnolia Park's off-leash dog area, staring through a chain-link fence at what could only be described as controlled chaos. Dozens of dogs of various sizes ran freely while their human companions watched and socialized. "This is impossible," Quartz whispered, his patterns cycling through rapid color changes. multiple predators in the same space without territorial conflicts. They watched as a massive Great Dane puppy bounded up to a tiny Chihuahua. Instead of the violent confrontation the aliens expected, the large dog immediately dropped into a playbow, inviting the smaller animal to chase him. The large predator is deliberately handicapping itself to accommodate the smaller one, observed Boulder. Why would it surrender its natural advantage? Because they're playing, David explained. Dogs have complex social rules about play. The bigger dog knows he could hurt the little one, so he's being gentle. A golden retriever suddenly appeared at the fence near their observation point, tail wagging furiously as it tried to get the attention of the visitors. Several alien students immediately moved backward, but the dog simply sat down and continued wagging, occasionally making soft whining sounds. It's trying to communicate, Pip said wonderingly. Look at its body language. The posture is submissive, not aggressive. Professor Kryn consulted her datapad. According to my research, this tail-wagging behavior indicates positive emotional state in canines. The creature appears to be attempting friendly contact. He wants attention, David said simply. Dogs like meeting new people. He's probably hoping someone will pet him. The concept of voluntarily touching a predator was so foreign to his classmates that several of them actually backed further away from the fence. But their scientific curiosity was clearly warring with their instinctual fear. The predator enjoys physical contact with unknown individuals, Rex asked incredulously. Most dogs do, David confirmed. They're social animals. Physical contact is how they show affection and bond with others. A young human child suddenly ran up to the golden retriever, throwing her arms around the dog's neck in an enthusiastic hug. The dog's tail wagged even harder as it gently licked the child's face, causing her to giggle with delight. The reaction from the alien students was immediate and intense. Several made distress calls in their native languages while others froze completely in shock. Professor Kryn quickly activated her emergency communicator before David could stop her. Medical team, please stand by for potential casualty. She spoke rapidly into the device. Human juvenile is in direct contact with unsecured predator. Professor, wait. David called out, but the child had already climbed onto the dog's back, riding him like a horse while the gentle animal carefully walked around to ensure she didn't fall. The predator is protecting the young human, Pip said in amazement, lowering her communicator. Look, it's moving slowly and carefully to prevent injury. They continued to watch as the scene played out. The dog eventually lay down to let the child climb off safely, then followed her as she ran to join other children in the play area. When a larger, more energetic dog bounded toward the group of kids, the golden retriever smoothly intercepted, engaging the newcomer in play and drawing it away from the children. Protective behavior toward young of another species, Quartz observed. His patterns, now stable in what David had learned, indicated intense concentration. The predator is acting as a guardian. Professor Kryn slowly lowered her communicator, her scientific mind clearly struggling to process what she was witnessing. David, is this behavior typical? Very typical, David confirmed. Dogs are especially good with kids. Most families get dogs specifically because they're great companions for children. The group spent another hour at the park, documenting dozens of interactions that defied everything they thought they knew about predator behavior. They saw dogs sharing toys, taking turns with water bowls, and consistently showing restraint and consideration for both humans and other animals. As they finally prepared to leave for David's house, Professor Kryn turned to her students. What we have observed today challenges fundamental assumptions about predator-prey relationships. We must approach our next observation with completely open minds. Pip nodded enthusiastically, though her protective suit made the gesture awkward. I'm beginning to think we've been asking the wrong questions entirely. David smiled as he led the group toward their transport. If they thought the dog park was impressive, wait until they met Max. Dr. Rose Williams had been studying animal behavior for 30 years, but she had never given a lecture to an audience wearing full environmental protection suits. The Wildlife Rehabilitation Center's main conference room had been hastily adapted, with additional ventilation systems and emergency exits to accommodate the visiting alien students, who sat in a careful semicircle around the human scientist. Before we discuss human-animal relationships, Dr. Williams began, adjusting her glasses as she looked at the diverse group, I think it's important to understand something fundamental about human evolution that most other species seem to miss. Professor Kryn leaned forward in her specially adapted chair. Please elaborate. My students have observed behaviors that contradict all known models of predator-prey interaction. Dr. Williams activated the room's holographic display, showing a timeline of human evolutionary development. Most galactic civilizations developed intelligence as a survival response to predation pressure. You evolved bigger brains to hide better, run faster, or build better defenses. But humans evolved differently. The display showed early human ancestors moving across African savannas in organized groups, using tools and coordinated hunting strategies. Humans didn't evolve to escape predators, Dr. Williams continued. We evolved to become predators ourselves. Cooperative pack hunters who used intelligence not to hide from dangerous animals but to hunt them. Rex made a soft hissing sound that indicated deep thought. You are saying humans are not prey species? Exactly, Dr. Williams replied. Modern humans may look relatively harmless compared to other apex predators, but that's because we developed tools and cooperation to replace physical prowess. A single human with a spear and knowledge is one of the most dangerous hunters on Earth. Quartz's crystalline structure brightened with realization. This explains the absence of fear response when humans interact with other predators. They are not prey recognizing a threat. They are equals recognizing equals. Dr. Williams nodded approvingly. Now you're beginning to understand. When early humans encountered wolves, they didn't see monsters to flee from. They saw fellow pack hunters with complementary skills. The display shifted to show cave paintings and archaeological evidence of early human-wolf cooperation. Images of joint hunts, shared kills, and humans and wolves resting together around the same fires. The relationship began as a practical partnership, Dr. Williams explained. Wolves had better senses and tracking abilities. Humans had tools, planning capabilities, and opposable thumbs. Together they could take down prey that neither could handle alone. Pip's tentacles waved with excitement, though the gesture was muted by her protective suit. So the human-predator bond originated from mutual benefit rather than domestication. Precisely. Humans didn't tame wolves. They formed an alliance with them. The wolves that worked best with humans survived and reproduced. The humans who could form these partnerships ate better and lived longer. Both species evolved together. Boulder made his characteristic grinding sound of understanding. Coevolution. Both species adapted to enhance cooperation, rather than one dominating the other. Dr. Williams brought up genetic analysis charts showing the differences between wolves and domestic dogs. Over thousands of generations, both humans and dogs developed enhanced social intelligence. Dogs became better at reading human emotions and intentions. Humans became better at understanding and communicating with other species. But why did this not happen with other galactic civilizations? Professor Kryn asked. Surely other intelligent species encountered similar opportunities. Dr. Williams paused thoughtfully. That's where human psychology becomes unique. Most species that developed intelligence did so under predation pressure. Their survival instincts are fundamentally about avoiding danger. But humans developed intelligence as hunters, which means our instincts are about identifying and exploiting opportunities. She showed brain scans comparing human neural activity to that of various Earth animals. When humans see a large predator, the parts of their brain associated with problem-solving and opportunity assessment activate alongside their fear responses. Other prey species show only fear and avoidance patterns, so when humans encounter potential threats, they also automatically evaluate them as potential allies. Sarah asked, her large eyes wide with wonder. Exactly. It's why humans have successfully formed partnerships with horses, elephants, dolphins, and dozens of other species throughout history. Where other civilizations see danger to avoid, humans see potential resources or allies to recruit. Rex shifted in his environmental suit, his scales changing to colors that indicated intense interest. This suggests humans possess a form of social intelligence that other species lack. Dr. Williams nodded. Human empathy isn't limited to their own species. They can form genuine emotional bonds with virtually any creature that shows reciprocal social behavior. It's an extension of the pack bonding instincts that made their early hunting partnerships possible. The display showed modern examples: police officers working with dogs, dolphins assisting in marine rescues, horses providing therapy for disabled humans, and cats offering emotional support in hospitals. What you're seeing in modern human-pet relationships is the same cooperative instinct that helped humans survive and thrive for millennia. The practical necessity is gone, but the emotional and social bonds remain. Pip raised her hand tentatively. Dr. Williams, does this mean that these human-animal partnerships are actually more advanced than we initially understood? Much more advanced, Dr. Williams confirmed. What looks like simple pet keeping is actually sophisticated interspecies communication and cooperation. Humans can form working partnerships with animals that other species would consider impossible to interact with safely. Professor Kryn consulted her notes. This suggests that human civilization is built on fundamentally different social principles than other known cultures. That's correct. While most galactic civilizations develop technology to control or eliminate threats, humans developed social technologies to convert threats into allies. It's why human diplomacy often confuses other species. They're applying predator-partnership principles to interspecies relations. Quartz suddenly flared bright white with excitement. This explains human behavior in galactic politics. They consistently attempt to form cooperative relationships with species that other civilizations consider too dangerous or unpredictable to trust. Dr. Williams smiled. Humans see conflict as a problem to solve through relationship building rather than elimination or avoidance. It's the same instinct that led them to befriend wolves instead of driving them away. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These alien students had come to Earth expecting to study a bizarre anomaly in human behavior. Instead, they were discovering that this anomaly was actually the foundation of human civilization itself. So when humans keep predators as pets, Pip said slowly, they're not overcoming their natural instincts, they're following them. Exactly, Dr. Williams confirmed. The human capacity for interspecies partnership isn't a quirk or a dangerous habit. It's their greatest evolutionary advantage and the defining characteristic of their species. Rex made a thoughtful hissing sound. This means we have been fundamentally misunderstanding human nature. They are not reckless prey animals who make poor survival decisions. They are sophisticated social predators who have developed advanced cooperative strategies. And that, Dr. Williams concluded, is why humans are the only species known to keep predators as pets. They're not keeping pets at all. They're maintaining ancient partnerships that shaped both species for thousands of generations. Professor Kryn looked around at her students, seeing the profound shift in understanding reflected in their various alien expressions of amazement. Class, she said quietly, I believe we need to completely revise our research hypothesis. The police training facility in downtown Seattle hummed with activity as Officer Maria Santos and her German Shepherd partner Bruno demonstrated search and rescue techniques for their unusual audience. The alien students had finally convinced themselves to remove their environmental suits after 3 days of observation, though several still maintained what they considered a safe distance from any four-legged creatures. Bruno and I have been partners for 4 years, Officer Santos explained, watching as her canine companion methodically searched a simulated disaster area. He's not just a tool I use for police work. He's literally my partner. We make decisions together. Pip watched in fascination as Bruno suddenly alerted, his entire body language changing as he detected the scent he was trained to find. Instead of immediately signaling his human partner, the dog first confirmed the source of the scent, then returned to Officer Santos with clear, deliberate communication. How does the creature convey complex information? Professor Kryn asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her remaining nervousness around the large predator. Watch his body language, Officer Santos replied. Bruno has different signals for different types of finds. The way he sits, where he looks, even how he wags his tail. It all gives me information about what he's detected and how confident he is about it. Bruno approached their observation area, tongue hanging out and tail wagging as he looked expectantly at his handler. Officer Santos reached into her utility belt and produced a tennis ball, which the dog caught expertly before returning to his search pattern. The predator works for recreational reward rather than food? Rex observed, his scales shifting to colors of amazement. This suggests motivation beyond mere survival. Bruno loves his job, Officer Santos confirmed. Dogs are naturally problem solvers. Give them a task that engages their minds and they'll work with enthusiasm all day. The play reward is just a way of telling him he did well. Quartz flickered through several color patterns before settling on one David had learned indicated deep contemplation. Officer Santos, could you explain the decision-making process when you and Bruno are working together? Sure. Watch this. Officer Santos gave Bruno a hand signal and the dog immediately began searching a different section of the training area. I can tell Bruno where to search, but I can't tell him how to search. He uses his own judgment about the best approach. If he thinks I'm wrong about something, he'll let me know. As if to demonstrate this point, Bruno suddenly stopped following his handler's directions and moved toward a different area entirely. Officer Santos paused, watching her partner carefully. Bruno's telling me he's found something more interesting than what I asked him to look for, she explained. I can override him if I want, but his nose is usually better than my guess. Sure enough, Bruno's investigation revealed a hidden training target that had been placed without Officer Santos's knowledge. The dog sat proudly next to his discovery, clearly pleased with himself. The predator made an independent decision that contradicted human instruction, and the human deferred to the predator's judgment. Boulder rumbled in amazement. This is genuine partnership decision-making. Their next stop was the children's hospital, where therapy dogs were making their regular rounds. The alien students observed in wonder as a gentle golden retriever named Honey worked with young patients recovering from various illnesses and injuries. Honey has been specially trained to work with sick children, explained Dr. Jennifer Park, the hospital's child psychologist. She can sense when a child is in pain or distressed and adjust her behavior accordingly. They watched as Honey approached a young boy who was clearly frightened about an upcoming procedure. The dog immediately lowered herself to the ground and crawled forward slowly, making herself appear as non-threatening as possible. How does the creature assess the emotional state of human young? Zara asked, her herbivorous instincts still triggered by the proximity of a predator to vulnerable children. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to human emotional signals, Dr. Park explained. They read facial expressions, body posture, vocal tones, and even chemical signals we release when we're stressed or afraid. Honey can often detect a child's anxiety before the medical staff notices it. The boy tentatively reached out to pet Honey, and the dog remained perfectly still, allowing the child to control the interaction completely. Gradually, the boy's fearful expression relaxed into a smile as he ran his fingers through the dog's soft fur. The predator is providing psychological comfort to a distressed human, Pip observed, her tentacles waving with excitement. This requires understanding and responding to complex emotional states. Honey does more than just comfort, Dr. Park added. Watch what happens when children are in physical therapy. They move to the rehabilitation area, where a young girl was working to regain mobility after an accident. Honey positioned herself next to the exercise equipment, providing motivation and encouragement as the child worked through painful exercises. The dog becomes an incentive for recovery, Professor Kryn noted. The human young works harder to interact with the predator than she would for purely medical reasons. Exactly. Children will push through discomfort and fear to spend time with the therapy dogs. It's not just emotional support. It's active participation in the healing process. Rex watched as another child, this one with autism, sat quietly with a different therapy dog, finding comfort in the animal's calm presence. The predators adapt their behavior to individual human needs. Each dog is trained to work with specific conditions, Dr. Park confirmed. Some are high energy for children who need motivation. Others are calm and steady for children who need emotional regulation. They learn to read what each individual child requires. Their final observation was at David's house, where they met Max for the first time without protective equipment. The golden retriever's initial shyness quickly gave way to curiosity as he realized these strange visitors were friends of his family. Max treats you as pack members, David's father, Robert explained as the dog cautiously approached each alien student for inspection. He's decided you belong here because we've accepted you. Pip was the first to attempt physical contact with Max, extending one tentacle toward the dog's head. Max sniffed carefully, then gently licked the offered appendage, causing Pip to make surprised sounds of delight. The predator's saliva contains no toxins, she announced to her classmates. The behavior appears to be purely social bonding. One by one, each student experienced direct contact with Max. His patient, gentle demeanor gradually won over even the most nervous visitors. When David's 5-year-old sister Lucy came home from school, Max immediately shifted his attention to protecting and welcoming her, demonstrating the complex social hierarchies he maintained within the household. Max knows that Lucy is the most important family member to protect, Robert explained as they watched the dog follow the child around the house. He's appointed himself as her personal guardian, but he also knows to defer to Sarah and me when we give him instructions about Lucy's safety. The creature maintains multiple simultaneous relationships with different pack members, Boulder observed. Each relationship has different parameters and responsibilities. That's exactly right, Robert confirmed. Max's relationship with each family member is unique. He's playful with David, protective with Lucy, and respectful with Sarah and me. But he also understands the overall family structure and his place in it. As the day concluded, the alien students found themselves completely revising their understanding of human-predator relationships. These weren't simple domestication scenarios or even basic partnerships. They were complex, multi-layered social bonds that required sophisticated emotional intelligence from both species. These relationships are not about humans controlling predators, Professor Kryn summarized as they prepared to return to their shuttle. They are about two intelligent species developing hybrid social structures that benefit both. Pip looked back at Max, who was watching them leave from the window, tail wagging in farewell. We came here thinking humans were strange for keeping predators as pets. Now I understand they're not keeping pets at all. They're maintaining family relationships with members of other species. The revelation would change not just their research project, but their entire understanding of what was possible between different forms of intelligent life. The Grand Assembly Hall of Harmony Station had never hosted such a diverse audience. Representatives from 47 different species filled the specially designed seating areas, their various forms of communication creating a subtle symphony of clicks, hums, and harmonics as they discussed the unprecedented presentation they were about to witness. David stood nervously at the side of the stage, still amazed that his simple xenobiology class project had attracted attention from across the galaxy. What had started as a curious question about human pets had somehow become one of the most significant xenosociological discoveries in recent history. Professor Kryn stepped to the central podium, her forearms adjusting the presentation controls with practiced efficiency. Honored colleagues, we gather today to share findings that challenge fundamental assumptions about interspecies relationships and the nature of cooperative evolution. The hall quieted as holographic displays activated throughout the space, showing images from their research expedition to Earth. Gasps and sounds of amazement echoed from various sections of the audience as they saw humans interacting casually with creatures their own species would consider deadly threats. 3 months ago, my student Pip asked why humans are the only known species to voluntarily cohabitate with predators. Professor Kryn continued. Today we present evidence that this question was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human evolution and social development. Pip stepped forward, her bioluminescent patches glowing with excitement as she addressed the assembly. Our initial hypothesis assumed humans were a prey species exhibiting anomalous behavior. Our research revealed that humans are actually cooperative predators who developed unprecedented interspecies partnership capabilities. The presentation screen showed evolutionary timelines, comparing human development with other galactic civilizations. The stark differences were immediately apparent to the scientific audience. While most sapient species developed intelligence to escape predation, Quartz added, his crystalline form projecting data in multiple light spectrums, humans evolved intelligence to enhance their hunting effectiveness through cooperation. This fundamental difference shaped their entire approach to interspecies contact. Rex took his position at the podium, his scales shifting to formal presentation colors. Human-predator relationships are not domestication scenarios. They are continuing expressions of ancient partnership agreements that benefited both species through evolutionary adaptation. The audience watched video footage of police dogs, therapy animals, and family pets demonstrating complex problem-solving and emotional intelligence. Sounds of amazement rippled through species that had never conceived of such sophisticated interspecies cooperation. The creatures humans call pets maintain their predatory capabilities, while choosing to direct those abilities toward protecting and assisting their human partners, Boulder explained, his deep voice carrying clearly through the hall's acoustic systems. This requires cognitive abilities far beyond what most species attribute to non-sapient life. Zara stepped forward to address a concern she knew would be foremost in many minds. We observed extensive interactions between human young and these predator partners. Rather than representing dangerous exposure to threats, these relationships provide psychological, emotional, and developmental benefits that enhance human juvenile survival rates. The presentation showed statistics comparing human childhood development in households with and without animal companions, demonstrating measurable improvements in empathy, responsibility, and social intelligence among children who grew up with pets. Most significantly, Professor Crin announced, returning to the podium, we discovered that human interspecies partnership abilities extend far beyond Earth's animal life. Humans consistently attempt to form cooperative relationships with species that other civilizations consider too dangerous, unpredictable, or alien to trust. A murmur of recognition swept through the assembly as representatives recalled their own experiences with human diplomats and their unconventional approaches to interspecies relations. David was invited to join the presentation team on stage, still somewhat overwhelmed by the attention. Growing up with Max taught me that friendship doesn't require being the same species, he said simply. Humans have always believed that intelligence and goodwill can exist in many different forms. This philosophy extends to human galactic policy, Professor Crin explained. Humans approach new species contact with assumptions of potential partnership rather than potential threat. They actively seek common ground and mutual benefit rather than focusing on differences and dangers. The implications of this revelation began to dawn on the diverse audience. Species that had struggled with interstellar diplomacy for centuries were realizing they had been approaching the problem from fundamentally different perspectives than humans. Humans don't overcome their fear of other species, Pip concluded. They transform that fear into curiosity and seek opportunities for mutual benefit. It's the same instinct that led them to befriend wolves. 15,000 years ago, the presentation concluded with a comprehensive analysis of human diplomatic successes and their correlation with the species' unique evolutionary background. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or individual capabilities, but their unparalleled ability to form genuine partnerships across species barriers. As the formal presentation ended, the question and discussion period revealed the profound impact of these findings. Ambassador Kelth of the Rigel Confederation stood to address the assembly. My government has struggled with territorial disputes involving 3 species for over 2 centuries, she announced. We have consistently approached these conflicts from defensive positions, assuming incompatible interests. Perhaps it is time to request human mediation services. Similar requests began emerging from throughout the assembly. Species that had maintained careful isolation policies were reconsidering their approaches. Others were requesting human consultation on long-standing diplomatic challenges. Dr. Rose Williams, who had joined the presentation via quantum communication link from Earth, addressed the Assembly's questions about implementing human-style partnership approaches. The key is shifting from threat assessment mindset to opportunity recognition mindset, she explained. Instead of asking, how can we protect ourselves from this species, ask what might we accomplish together. It's not easy to change fundamental thinking patterns, but the potential benefits are enormous. The presentation's impact extended far beyond academic circles. Within weeks, Harmony Station received requests for establishment of new diplomatic protocols based on human partnership principles. The Galactic Council announced formation of a new committee to study cooperative relationship models for interspecies contact. David found himself appointed as a cultural liaison, helping other species understand human approaches to relationship building. The boy who had simply wanted to explain why his family loved their dog had become a bridge between civilizations. The most amazing thing, Pip told David as they watched various species representatives discussing new cooperation agreements, is that humans have been demonstrating these partnership capabilities for millennia. We just didn't understand what we were seeing. Professor Crin reflected on how completely their understanding had changed. We set out to study an anomaly in human behavior. Instead, we discovered that what we considered normal interspecies behavior is actually the anomaly. Humans represent what's possible when cooperative intelligence evolves without fundamental fear of the other. The research project, that began with a simple question about pets, had revealed humanity's unique role in the galactic community. They weren't just another species among many. They were natural facilitators of cooperation, living bridges between different forms of intelligence. As David looked out at the assembly hall, filled with species that had rarely attempted meaningful cooperation before, he thought about Max waiting for him back on Earth. The golden retriever who had started this entire revelation was probably napping on the couch, completely unaware that his existence had just changed the course of galactic civilization. The universe had just learned something that humans had always known: that friendship, loyalty, and cooperation weren't limited by the boundaries of species. Sometimes the most profound discoveries were hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to ask the right question, and sometimes those discoveries came with wagging tails and wet noses, reminding everyone that the best partnerships were built on love, trust, and the simple recognition that different didn't mean enemy. It just meant friend with different capabilities.